three senators stepped out of the Senate Judiciary Committee. They include the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, and Josh Hawley, Senator Hawley. So those three senators have made statements and have announced that the Senate Judiciary Committee will be holding a vote to subpoena Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, for his testimony next Friday before the Senate Judiciary Committee in relation to this selective censorship of news outlets.
The committee today will be noticing a markup on Tuesday to issue a subpoena to Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee next Friday, to come before this committee and the American people and explain why Twitter is abusing their corporate power to silence the press and to cover up allegations of corruption. And let me be clear, I don't know if these New York Post stories are true or not. Those are questions Vice President Biden should answer. But Twitter and Facebook and big tech billionaires don't get to censor political speech and actively interfere in the election. That's what they're doing right now.
It's kind of sickening to see, actually, in a country where we have freedom of the press in the Constitution, First Amendment, and freedom of speech. And, they love protecting their sources and confidential sources, and they've gone to the Supreme Court and gotten those protections for themselves. And the famous New York Times cases, they love putting out classified info that gets leaked to them, unless it's something about, unless it's near an election and it's something about the candidate they prefer.
This idea that you would take the fourth largest distributed newspaper in the country and start censoring out their news items, and the only reason you allow them to be posted is because, well, others started reporting it. I think that's the problem. So we'll see if it gets addressed in these upcoming hearings.
Withholding information from voters right before an election, that happens in banana republics, not the United States of America, until maybe now. Look, Jack Dorsey could have gone out and used the platform that he runs to say that, I don't know, maybe he should say this story, in his view, is unverified and salacious. I've heard those words somewhere before. He didn't do that. He stopped millions of American people from being able to access the same information that he used to come to his conclusion.
Was this the step too far for Twitter? And now that, because they now went after not just individuals, but they're now going after corporations, corporate news outlets that have been in existence for many, many, many years, with different publications that share different views, that don't come to conclusions, but report what they've received. New York Times does the same thing. I think a lot of these outlets, again, if it was about Donald Trump, I don't think there'd be any censorship.
They're going to take down New York Times articles or Washington Post articles about the Russia investigation, which has now been proved to be completely false. A lot of the reporting, or the Steele dossier, are they going to go back and say, now that's not, we're going to start censoring those out? Of course they're not. So this is what, we used to call this in the classic litigation sense, and I handled a lot of these cases at the U.S. Supreme Court, and that is viewpoint discrimination. It's not like we're saying we're not going to run newspaper articles on our platforms. We're just not going to do that. Instead, they say we're not going to run this message.
Nobody in Twitter and social media shut down anything about Trump and Russia. So we're going to proceed Tuesday. Hopefully the Democrats on the committee will be as interested in this as we are, because it's us today, it could be them tomorrow.
Senator Hawley has also invited Mark Zuckerberg to be a part of that. He traditionally, Jordan, has been more willing to appear voluntarily. Either way, I expect both of them will be there on Friday. I think they will use subpoenas for both if they have to, but at this point, I think that it'll only be necessary for Jack Dorsey.
When our colleague Rick Grenell was censored and ultimately opened, the question that I ask is, of course, did they ever say to Rick or to Rick's team, hey, we shouldn't have done this. This was inappropriate?
We're actually, in Rick's situation, demanding that they acknowledge what they did was inappropriate and wrong, and so that there's some record of them actually saying it wasn't just some kind of accident or some kind of algorithm, but it was a decision that was wrong, and apologizing for that kind of action. You have to do something about it. And it's not just because it's happening to conservatives. It's because it just shouldn't be happening, Dad. That is the key here, is that these companies they are private companies, but there are laws, there are rules, and they have to abide by them.